During the era of the Malacca Sultanate, there was a peaceful village at the foot of Mount Ledang, with a crystal-clear river flowing through it. One day, Sultan Mahmud set out to hunt in the area. While walking alone to enjoy the beauty of nature, he encountered a beautiful woman by the riverbank, picking flowers. The woman smiled sweetly upon seeing the Sultan, instantly captivating him. The Sultan hurried toward her, but before he could reach her, she vanished. He searched everywhere but couldn't find her, and returned to his palace feeling disheartened. That night, he couldn't sleep, as the image of the woman lingered in his mind. The next day, the Sultan summoned his ministers and told them about his encounter by the river. One of the ministers informed the Sultan that the woman he saw was the Princess of Mount known for her beauty and wisdom. The Sultan, deeply intrigued, decided to send a delegation to propose marriage. He ordered his ministers to prepare precious gifts for the princess, including a special woven sanket cloth made of gold thread and jewels adorned with diamonds, as a sign of his sincerity. During the preparations, one of the ministers had a disturbing dream, in which the Sultan's son was covered in blood. Though the dream made him uneasy, the marriage delegation continued their journey to Mount The road was treacherous, and along the way, they faced many dangers, including attacks by wild beasts such as tigers and lions. However, they persevered, determined to fulfill the Sultan's command. After several hours, they encountered a hunchbacked old woman along the path. She advised them to give up their quest and return to Malacca, saying that the marriage proposal was in vain. The ministers refused, insisting on completing their mission. Reluctantly, the old woman invited them to rest at her cottage. There, they ate and listened to her stories, but soon became tired and unknowingly fell asleep. When they awoke, the cottage and the food had vanished, and only a lone tree remained. At that moment, they realized the old woman was actually the Princess of Mount in disguise, trying to stop them from reaching her. That night, they were tormented by shadows and eerie sounds, making it impossible to sleep. The following morning, exhausted and filled with fear, Tun Mahmud, one of the leaders of the delegation, decided to continue the journey alone to Mount palace. After a difficult climb, Tun Mahmud finally arrived at a fragrant garden. Beyond the garden, he saw a grand palace shrouded in mist. At the palace gates, beautiful maidens greeted him. As he prepared to enter, the sound of drums and flutes filled the air, and the maidens began to sing and dance. After the performance, he was served a lavish meal. When the meal ended, the drums sounded once more, and the maiden stood as the Princess of Mount appeared. Tun Mahmud was struck by her stunning beauty. Tun Mahmud conveyed the Sultan of Malacca's marriage proposal to the princess. She listened and nodded in agreement but set forth 3 conditions. The Sultan must build a bridge of gold and a bridge of silver to connect Mount to Malacca, and he must also present her with a bowl of mosquitoes' hearts, a bowl of water from a young coconut, and a bowl of the prince's blood. These demands were nearly impossible to fulfill. Tun Mahmud returned to the palace and relayed the princess's conditions to the Sultan. Upon hearing them, the Sultan was troubled. While he could potentially build the bridges, the other requests were unachievable. After 2 days of deep contemplation, the Sultan decided not to send the marriage delegation to Mount again. The ministers were relieved and praised the princess's wisdom, admiring how she cleverly refused the Sultan's proposal. This story teaches us that we should not have unrealistic expectations that disregard our real responsibilities. Problems should be approached with intelligence and tact to avoid hurting others' feelings, like pulling a strand of hair out of flour without spilling any.